I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised in an environment where men don't talk. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have feelings. We get up, we go to work, we make money, we come home, and we're okay. And there's so many guys that are suffering silently because they're not allowed to talk about depression. They're not allowed to talk about they're having panic attacks on the way to work. Or
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Consult a qualified professional for your needs. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of Meet Your Mental Helper Podcast LLC or its affiliates. We are not responsible for actions taken based on this content.
Hi, I'm Jim Weisbecker. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, and Ohio. The reason I started the Meet Your Mental Helper podcast is kind of selfish in a way because I just love talking shop with colleagues. But I also think the world needs to know about some of these people. And the reason I say that is I'm amazed at how much they know. And I think to myself, they should be on a podcast. But they're not celebrities. They're just everyday counselors, therapists, coaches, psychologists that work in our communities and grind it out to help us heal and to help us grow. So let's meet today's mental helper.
And welcome to Meet Your Mental Helper. For listeners meeting you for the first time today, Daniel, how do you describe the work you do and why it matters so much to you personally?
wow. So my name's Daniel Rubin. I'm a licensed therapist, and my specialty would be men's mental health. I own a men's only intensive outpatient program. And it's so important because honestly, I think the treatment world is broken. I think our higher levels of care are not effective. And I think a lot of people need more than just individual counseling. And they're going to programs that systemically are just not able to provide them what they need. So it's very important that we have a space where we can provide that service to people and do it in a way that's not done anywhere in the country, which is basically a numbers game for us. You know, we only accept 12 men into our program, and for those 12 men, we have 4 full-time therapists. So you're getting a ratio that I haven't been able to find anywhere else, and it's just not like regular therapists. We've all been in the field for about 15 years apiece, so we're committed. It's my wife, my sister-in-law, and then we have Phil, who came on board in the beginning. But we're all very passionate about this work too. So it's just important that this exists and people know it exists. It's one of my challenges also because I'm in charge of the marketing. Everything's kept in-house, and I have to battle against places that claim to be doing what we're doing. And I know it's not real. Like, as a therapist, I'm sure you know, like the ratios for most places are 15-1 because that's what in Florida is allowed. For each therapist, they get a caseload of 15 people, and it's not working for me as a therapist. It's not working for my client either. So to have places tell me that they're doing something similar, it can be very frustrating because I'm like, is that your total staff number? Is that including all the BHTs, the case managers? Like, because I know they're not giving the attention to the client that really should be given at a higher level of care. My
Yeah.
dog, I got
Oh,
my
you're
dog
fine.
snoring in
That's
the
fine.
background.
That's fine. Just to ground listeners in your background, you've been working in mental health and substance use treatment for about 15 years.
Yes.
You've worked across parole services, medication assisted treatment, state mental health, maximum security prison settings, and treatment centers at every level of care. And you're also the founder of Transcend Wellness, as you mentioned earlier, gender specific boutique intensive outpatient program. And you also work as a private practice therapist. And maybe, Daniel, for people that don't know what IOP stands for, maybe go over that.
Of course. So IOP is an intensive outpatient program. It's basically your one step up from outpatient or just your regular weekly therapy. So it's a program where you're allowed to still be at home. You don't have to go check yourself into a 30-day program, but you're going to get a little bit more than just your weekly therapy. So it's a combination of individual therapy, group therapy, and then also psychiatric care. So at our program, you come to group Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 6 to 9. Then you'll have an individual session with one of the therapists, and then you'll also meet with our psychiatric team. So it's a nice little middle ground. Like a lot of people, especially working professional men, is who we cater to. They're not ready or they don't have the time to jump away for 30, 40, 60 days. And they need something where they can come and get more than, a weekly session. Even as a private practice clinician, a lot of us are seeing people 2 to 3 times a week that are in crisis, that need more. And they don't even know IOP exists sometimes. It's like, it was this, which I like as a treatment professional. Also, I love IOP because it's where you get to see real people in terms of like, this is where the rubber hits the road for a lot of people. Because there's something I think that happens to the brain when you go away to treatment, like, especially for substance users. It's almost like it shuts down the cravings and all the triggers and everything when you're locked away in a facility because you can't really go use. So when you get out, IOP is so essential because it's giving you that extra support while you're back at work, while you're living with your spouse or partner, while you're dealing with all the drama of the world, but you still have 10 clinical hours of treatment a week, plus medication and a doctor. And like at our place, I talk to every one of our guys every day. They get my personal cell phone number. I text you in the morning. I say what's going on. I want you to blow up my phone and use me as a tool while you're here because I think it's the hardest level of care.
And Daniel, are you private pay or insurance?
So we are a combo of both. We take insurance that has out-of-network benefits, and then the private pay rate for a month is $5,000, and hourly it's $200 for the private practice. But I'm also the CFO, so we came into this thing wanting to make it clinically driven, clinically based, and we wanted to help people. So I stretch out payments for people all the time. Like if you sit down with me and you put something on a piece of paper, like I'm going to work out a payment plan for you. Like we're going to be okay. Cause it's another thing, guys, especially men, financial guys, sometimes it's like the biggest worry. And I'm like, let's ease that. Let's take that off the table. So you actually address the depression, you address the anxiety, the substance, the suicidality, any of it. And then
Uh-huh.
we'll worry about the money because that can always be worked out.
Sure. What percent what percentage would you say are clients that just do IOP versus they're getting out of inpatient and coming to you?
I would say it's probably 60-40. One of our biggest referral bases is private practice clinicians. So we actually don't do that many step downs. Um, One of it's that a lot of the bigger facilities don't understand what we're doing compared to a private practice clinician. Like when I market directly towards private practice therapists because when I go to them and I tell them what I'm doing and why I'm different, they 100% get it. They love the fact that, all three of us have the experience that we do and that the majority of groups also have two facilitators in them all the time. So I run Monday, Emily runs Tuesday, Catherine runs Thursday, and then Phil is sitting in on all groups with us. So it's really a good vibe to see the difference and to know that. So there's I would say the majority is actually a step up in people that didn't really know this was available until their therapist was like, hey, you could do this, not step away from life as much and get the assistance that you need.
And um, you started this because you felt like there was a gap in the community as to what was. Tell us kind of like what's typical. We know you have a lot, you pay a lot of attention. I mean, it sounds like you're getting a lot of specialized attention, but what's typical for IOP?
So we were in private practice since 2008, me and my wife, Catherine Lover, and she's at LCSW. And we personally had some clients go away, spend a good amount of money, and they would be on a caseload. So typically, when you go to a treatment center, you're going to get a therapist who's got a caseload of 15 people, right? We have a caseload of 3. 15's a lot if you have any clinical experience because it's just not outpatient therapy. you're doing a lot of documentation to justify that person being there. So not only do they have a therapist who's got all these other people, they're going to be in large groups most of the time. So you're sitting in a room probably with a minimum of 15 other people that might be from a bunch of various backgrounds. There's not as much attention put into who's specifically going to be put in that room with you because there's a lot of entities happening in a big corporation like most treatment centers. You got the business development hand, which is the money hand fighting with the clinical hand. And a lot of the times this business hand wins, right?
Mhm.
We do have the business hand, but it's me. So, like, when we're talking about admitting a client or deciding whether or not someone should stay with our program, it's three, and then Phil will come in, four educated clinicians that are having that conversation from a clinical perspective. And I love a lot of these bigger programs because we need them and they can do things I can't, like detox and residential and higher levels of care, which for the little guy out there is very hard. But at the same time, they are what they are. You know what I mean? Like a McDonald's is a McDonald's. Like they're a huge corporation. You're not going to get the president of McDonald's on the phone. All my people get to talk to me all the time, like direct feedback. So you're going to get very big groups. You're going to get a therapist that is going to have a big caseload. And also, what a lot of corporations and these big centers do is they like to hire people fresh out of grad school. Nothing against those people. I love them, right? I was one of them.
Me too.
But at the same time, they are not going to get the 15 years of experience because once we get to a certain level as clinicians, most of us go into private practice because we get to be our own boss. We get to do the type of work without the limitations of insurance going on. We get to, personalize our stuff a little bit differently. And we don't want the restrictions. And we don't want the headache of doing 15 uh, charts that have utilization reviews and treatment plans and all the stuff that comes with it. So it's hard. Even like the communication piece, like, and these nothing against the big centers again, but I at times will be able to get more information on a client at a big center than the family because I have certain connections, right? And the family will call me being frustrated because I will work with them, right? But they'll be
Mhm.
like, I haven't been able to talk to John. But for me, I get to go directly to certain people, but it's just like that never happens with us. You're going to get everybody you need to talk to on the phone same day, if not within 30 minutes. Like we're efficient, we're quick, but we're also very small. So we get to do all the special things that the bigger places just can't because of numbers.
And when we talk about IOP, is it all substance use?
So we are dually licensed. We do both mental health and substance. And you can just have primary mental health and come to us, which we also see a growing need, especially with men. Like, I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised in an environment where men don't talk. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have feelings. We get up, we go to work, we make money, we come home, and we're okay. And there's so many guys that are suffering silently because they're not allowed to talk about depression. They're not allowed to talk about they're having panic attacks on the way to work. Or, I mean, our first responders, the complex trauma they see every day is amazing that they're still walking around and acting normal, but there's no way it's not affecting them emotionally. So there's just so much stuff that needs to be talked about on the mental health. Like you don't have to have a substance or drinking or alcohol or drug problem to come do IOP. It's amazing how many men that have been on the verge of suicide have reached out and like did not think there was any way to come back and got significant help through medication, through therapy,
Mhm.
through just recognizing like they're not alone. Yeah. Like our one of our target guys is like the successful either retired or about to retire man who like sees the work went away and all of a sudden he's alone and he's just crushed. So it's I love the work. It's interesting.
Mhm.
Good point. And you do 12 at a time, so you restrict your IOP to 12 people.
Mhm.
That being said, is there a screening process you go through on that to see if gonna it's gonna make sense for that individual or
100%. So we're very intentional with everything. We try to consider the client, we try to consider our group that we currently have, how well they're gonna mesh. I like to talk to anybody, like, I'll take phone call from anybody, and I'm willing to try to see if we can admit anybody, but we also make sure that it's gonna be the right fit in terms of all criteria, right? Is this an appropriate level of care? A lot of people want us, but they're not appropriate in terms of either they need detox, they need a higher level to really truly maintain sobriety, or the psychosis or the other pieces of mental health are so significant that doing an outpatient level is really hard.
what would I think you've kind of mentioned it a little bit. What would be your ideal client? And
We
that maybe transcend versus private practice.
I actually see a lot of the guys that come to me privately would qualify for our IOP. It's the guy who's got it together. He usually makes a good amount of money, in a relationship or history of relationships, but on the inside is not doing well. And then because of that, they're reacting and responding in ways that are unhealthy. They're coping in maladaptive ways. They're drinking too much. Especially, I'm in the Wilton Manors world. I don't know if you're familiar.
No.
Um, but a lot of gay men, and there is a major issue with methamphetamines. So it's become this party and sex drug that is really taken a hold of the community. There was just a report done, um, and it said that on a Friday or Saturday, that 50% of the cars in Wilton Manors would have methamphetamines in them.
Wow.
And it's touching everybody. This is not like just some drug that's affecting low levels of income or low social economics. It's hitting every age, it's hitting every income, and it's really taking over, and it's really tied to sex too. So we're seeing a lot of chemsex addiction here too, which is another thing to treat because once you get sober, you have to learn how to have healthy sex. And if that doesn't happen in the right order, it's this big ball of triggers, which just sets people into these relapse spirals too. Because also, sex is a big piece of community, of dating, of all these pieces that people really want to do. And it's like, all right, I took the drugs away, right? Probably the alcohol too. I don't have that. Now you're telling me I can't have sex for a little while, and it's like, shock, you know?
Hmm. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned the term chemsex.
Yes.
A lot of people may not be familiar how the two work together.
Yeah. So chemical and sex. So basically the use of substances while having sex. And then they kind of get married in the brain, and you can imagine where they're connected. So you think of one, you think of the other, and it's very hard to separate it. And then in this world, especially the LGBTQ world, is kind of blown up where certain things have become very popular, like ketamine, methamphetamines, especially MDMA, and it's like it'll be all mixed together and it becomes like an extended sexual experience because of these substances. So what started off as like normal hookups can go hours, can go days, I've seen weeks where I've had people, they're not drinking water, they're not eating food, they're just in this world of sex, you know?
Okay.
And it's very hard to get out of because there's another thing about it here too, the availability. So there's all these apps nowadays where people can literally get on and it's P&P, party and play, and you're getting free substances and free hookups right down the road 24/7, and you're expected to stay sober. And it's like, well, how? Like, how are you supposed to do that with this availability? You know?
Yeah.
So
Crazy times we're living in.
it's like when we talked a little bit before we came on about sex addiction in general and pornography, and like that world has really changed. Like I remember growing up you had to go like into the country and there was like a little cement bookstore that offered pornography, right? And you would go in
Mhm.
and you'd buy like an $80 VHS, and that was your porn for, months, compared to
Mhm.
today where we have unlimited
Right.
access to
And the
unlimited amounts of material. Also, sex workers, online strippers, like hookup apps, it's just exploding in front of us.
Mhm.
And yet we're expecting our brains and our bodies to respond like normally, like this isn't going to majorly affect us.
Yeah, the digital, we're not wired for the digital harem, as they say. And you're starting to see a lot of mainstream people like Huberman and whatnot talking about it from a neuroscience standpoint, which I think is great because
Yeah.
sometimes I'll tell clients, hey, this isn't a moral issue. Just here's some science.
Mhm.
Not whether you're doing the right thing or wrong thing, but
It's a
here's
lot for the
here's how it's
brain.
rewiring your brain. Exactly.
There's a good book, Your Brain on Porn. It's good, and it talks about the science behind it a lot. I always like to say, like, our biology has not caught up to our technology.
Yeah, I actually recommend that book to my clients.
It's
I
great.
tell it is, and I think it was originally around quitting cigarette smoking and adapted, but it's and from my point of view in mental health, it's it all makes sense. I mean, it's they talk about dopamine sadness versus withdrawal,
Mhm.
and I have that conversation with people all the time. You're not having withdrawal, you're just sad
Yeah.
that you're not having it again, and you'll be okay.
Well,
Easier said than done at first, but
the numbers are really, that are out there about the effects of porn, especially on young men. Like the number of young men that are having erectile dysfunction, it's like it's crazily tripled and doubled. Like
oh
it's
yeah,
And then these guys are hitting depressive episodes because they think something's wrong because, of course, we don't talk to anybody, guys, right? Like, we're just gonna sit there and think our life's over because we have ED at 30, and then it spirals into deeper, and then, it's wild when you look. There's a lot.
there's an interesting chart that shows 1996.
Mhm.
Prior to 96, there was no ED from 18 to 35.
Right.
And then as 96 is the year the internet started coming, the graph goes up, 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 up,
Right?
up.
It's literally when the tube sites, like, were start coming online,
Yeah.
and people are allowed to have unlimited versions of pornography.
Yeah. And why is ED part of that when you're consuming a digital harem? That's that book calls it. You're seeing 500 images in 20 minutes, and then you decide to, have sex with your partner, nothing's working.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole different grip than an anus or a vagina, right? What we're doing to the penis, what we're doing with our hand is just, it doesn't compare. And then also what we're viewing doesn't compare. I mean, it's not real sex. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the bloopers of porn, but or even an interview with a porn star, most of these people will tell you it's not a fun environment. I remember listening to a comedian talk about being behind the stage, and he was like so upset. He's like, this ruined it for me forever. These people are really upset. They're not having fun. They don't want to be there. Like, it's not the movies. But in our brains, that's what we're picturing. So when we have normal sex, it's never going to compare to these stars, these people putting on performances and doing things also that normal people don't do. Like, not to
Right.
shame anybody, but the majority of people having sex are not doing the extreme things that are happening in much of these videos right now. And it's getting aggressive. Like,
Mhm.
just what used to be considered like raunchy videos has gone sky high. Like the aggression, the violence, it's a lot more than it used to be.
Yeah, it's definitely out of control, I would say. Spiraling out of control. And also the access for kids with
Oh, yeah.
undeveloped brains to, every kid has a phone because it's a birthright. You have to have a phone.
Mhm.
And parents may say they're watching it or policing it, but they're not really
Well, the
by and
issue
large.
too is like even with us, like we try to be really good. I have 3 kids. That doesn't prevent Joe Schmo over here's son, who might not be doing it, from showing my kids. So like as even as controlled as I can be in my household, my kids are going to school with thousands of people. And you're gonna tell me that they're not gonna see some stuff on somebody's phone, right? And there's so many apps and there's so many, like, it's so hard to police just like Instagram, and then there's Snapchat, and then there's Twitter, and then there's Facebook, and there's a new one every day. So we
Yeah.
have to stay on top of that as parents. It's really hard.
I'm pretty old, but when I was myself and the neighbors, we had three boys that lived next door to us, and my brother, they would go down to the local drugstore and distract the pharmacist and then grab a Playboy.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm 10, 11. Of course, you go, what am I looking at here? And that was pretty mild back when I was a kid.
Oh, I remember. We had a similar thing. You'd find one in your parents' friend's closet, take it, put it in the
Mhm.
fort, and not really understand what you're looking at, but like it's just a still picture.
And it starts right then and there. The
Yeah,
the programming starts, the wiring starts at that moment where you go, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I know I like it and I don't want to see more.
yeah,
Even prepubescent, it
of
was
course.
like I was thinking, I want to marry that girl. I don't know why, but I do. And kind of a strange thing, but it's how it happened. You also worked in corrections,
Mm,
and how did that shape your view of substance and addiction?
wow.
It's a wow one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, Phillips State Prison in Georgia. Most of my guys had maximum sentences, so they're in there for life. So one, you see that there's a high level of severe and persistent mental illness with a lot of these guys. You get to see your true antisocial personalities. There's a lot of that. Um, this one of the sad pieces is you get a feeling that nobody cares, like, in these facilities. Like, we had a group of therapists that were great therapists, but even, like, what was communicated in terms of, the level of therapy that needed to happen for most of the guys is, you're having these sessions with little to no expectation that people are gonna get better, and you're there kinda to check a box. Like, even in my experience, we tried to start a substance abuse program. It was gonna be like an IOP format, for this prison, and I spent most of my time creating this thing. And one of the big factors that I really wanted to have was drug testing, right? You would like, I don't know a treatment center in America where you don't use drug testing.
Right.
And that was shut down so quickly because if the statistics were ever released about the number of people that are on drugs in prison, it would blow everybody's mind because the reality is there's drugs everywhere. That's another thing. And this is a state run, I think we had like 70 people get arrested while I was there for inmate dealings. Like
Wow.
that's not like these guys, all they do all day is watch you. They'll tell you everything about your life. Like there's nothing else to do in prison but watch the people that work there. So there's a constant threat and desire to get people to bring in stuff. So it's crazy because the system's set up to not work. You know what I mean? It's set up like we say we're keeping out drugs, but we're never going to really do a drug program for the people that actually want it and need it. Like I got guys to sign up that were, scared to vocally say on a piece of paper, "Hey, I'm using substances," because they get in trouble for it. But they were
Sure.
willing, but there was no real accountability. Like it's hard to, keep them sober when every other moment someone's offering them substance. Um,
Mhm.
so it's a sad world. It made me very fearful of prison. I don't think most people understand, um, what it would be like if they actually went. Um, it was just shocking of, like, the depression, just how hopeless a lot of those people feel, because there is no real help. There's no once you're there, you're do like, I remember sitting with young guys that would be coming in because they would come in to us first, um,
Mhm.
and, they'd be facing a 20-year sentence, and they'd be bawling in my office, and I'd be like, "You
Wow.
can't do that." Like, I'm gonna give you, like, 3 minutes, but, like, you can't do it anymore. Like, there's people here that are going to take advantage of you so quickly, and it's gonna be violent if you show any weakness. And, like, that was their 1 minute of somebody, like, truly caring and connecting before they get put into this environment of 1,200 inmates who are all looking to do things, you know? 'Cause that's
Sure.
also how it's set up. It's all predator and prey. Like, we even classify people the moment they come in as predator or prey, but even the prey has a category of predator in it, right? So there's, like,
Mhm.
these things called a PREA that has to be done. It's all about, like, rape intervention. Like, it's wild. Like, it's one of the wildest environments I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Like, especially the solitary stuff. That's insane. Because you would see people that literally had death threats at the prison come off of the protective custody because it drives them so crazy. Like,
Okay.
23-hour lockdown, and you only get an hour outside by yourself. Like, you literally are willing to possibly get stabbed to not have to go through that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for anyone to really put yourself in those shoes and understand that.
Yeah. It's like one of the saddest experiences
And
you'll ever see.
would you say that, I mean, there's statistics that show a vast majority of people are incarcerated somehow, some way connected to drugs.
Yeah.
And
Um,
then go ahead.
you go you definitely see it. I mean, everybody in there's using. So, like, there had to be some continuation. And I think, our old drug laws were insane, where you could get, busted for a small amount of crack, but have a large amount of powdered cocaine and literally get more time. That made 0 sense. And then, I'm not a big pro marijuana person because I'm in recovery, and I think the weed nowadays is a whole nother thing. But
A
I
different
think
ballgame.
some of the people that were arrested for large scale marijuana distribution also, um, not the best thing to be doing life around something like that. Um, but I think a lot of those people, once you get into that environment, you don't like drugs is one of the only answers because it's literally like I tell people it's like hell on earth. Like,
Mhm.
it's cold, it's damp. There's the one I was in had no AC, no heat. Like,
And where was that
it
located?
was in Georgia. It was right
Um,
outside the Mall of Georgia in Beaufort.
Hmm.
But, like,
okay.
there's nothing good happening, right? So it would be so easy to
Right.
fall back in to substance use.
Would you say that a lot of the people incarcerated have early life trauma?
100%.
Yeah.
Most that I talk to, like, even with the antisocial stuff, like, you could completely understand why they're here. Like, most people had 0 chance at having a normal life, and it started at a very young age.
Yeah. You wonder sometimes take away the brokenness of our society and people aren't using as many drugs and then aren't as many people incarcerated and
I'll tell you, I met some of the smartest guys ever in prison. Like,
Mhm.
some of the guys that I actually talked to, if you would have put them in different circumstances, they would have been millionaire, billionaire, businessmen, but they used their brain in a different way due to, what they felt like. I'm not saying there was, but felt like there was limited choices, and you can see how they go that way. And there's such, like, a hopelessness too. Like, I would literally hear people tell me about their next crime. Like, they would say, "I am going to rob the PNC Bank in Beaufort, Georgia, the day I know the bus route. I'm going right there. This is my life." Like, I'm that
Yeah.
institutionalized.
It was just their brain kind of wired that way.
Well, they didn't they literally felt more comfortable in prison, you know? After you do 30, there'd been guys that I've saw that had 30 years they were there. Like, they did not know what a CD player was, like, cell phones baffled, like, it's crazy to have that disconnect with people too, where it's like, you're literally talking to a time traveler almost, like,
Yeah.
there's no like, it baffled them, some of the stuff. Like, when Barack was president, like, could not even believe that happened.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
The, um, and you're focused on gender specific. How how much is there gender specific, like for IOP? How often do you see that, or are the big ones mostly mixed? Or
They mixed. Like, it's a marketing scheme, in terms of big, you cut your money in half when you become specific. So, if I'm gonna be a big company, I don't wanna spend 100,000 bucks and only get half the pile if I'm putting that money into marketing. This was another very intentional decision. I think they operate differently. I think there's gonna be things that are said in a men's only group that aren't gonna happen in a mixed gender group. I like the idea of men having men and being able to open up, uh, and get that relationship. I think a lot of men suffer from lack of friendships also once there's like a certain level. Like, once we get out of high school or college, and if we're working by ourselves, if we're not in a community already, it can be very easy to isolate because it's weird. I tell people all the time, like, it's weird to walk up to a guy and be like, "Hey, I don't know you, but let's get a coffee and, like, see if we can fit," because we need each other, and it's so easy to
yeah,
isolate on the other side. So, I know a few that do actually have gender specific treatment, and it's real. I always ask people, I tell them, like, if they come tour me, and I'll tell you the questions to ask to other facilities, because they'll say, like, "Hey, we have a gender group." Right?
mhm,
But that means probably you have 1 hour a week where you sit in a gender specific program versus our whole thing's split. The only time that you would see a female client is if there was an intentional wanna bring together to do a psychodrama, to do some role plays, to do some things that would actually be clinically driven and beneficial. Um, but I think people, they get to be a little bit more themselves sometimes in that specific environment.
yeah. That's a good point. I have I have a wife and two daughters. They're both adult children now. But like my youngest daughter the other day said, I met this girl. She's dating my boyfriend's friend, and we kind of, she seems really nice, so we're meeting for coffee.
Mhm.
I go, that's it. You're meeting? Yeah, I texted her, and we're meeting for coffee. Guys just don't do that.
And we're lonely. Like, there's so many guys, like, that's my primary, private practice client too, and it's like, how do I put you in situations where it's easier to have that conversation, whether it's like a group workout class or like a meetup site or something where you're already set up to have those easier conversations, because we do need each other, you know? And it can be so hard if you're working and you do have a partner or you do have a wife, you do have kids, like, you're busy. So the friendship piece can drop off very easily when you're trying to do this stuff. Also, like, the things we're raised on as men are different than women. I think it's shifting a little bit more, but our belief systems, our core beliefs, they need to be addressed too. They need to be realigned, because a lot of the guys were suffering because of a misalignment between, what we really want in life and what we're told we should want, or what our fathers said we should want. It's
Right.
different. And we're not going to have those conversations, unless we're all sitting together and going, "Hey, wait a minute."
Totally. I have so many clients when I do intakes, I'll say, what's your social support like? Do you have family, friends you can talk to. Well, I'll talk to my sister, but I really don't have any friends.
Mhm.
Or if I talk to anybody, it's my mom maybe or something. And these are grown men, and I get it, I get it. But and some of them they seem kind of jaded. Like, what's the point?
Well, that's another thing, and then also the ones that do have the friendships, they can be very superficial, where we get together, we
Hmm.
watch the game, and we have a drink, but you don't know that I'm having problems with my wife, or you don't know that my teen daughter's struggling with substances, or I'm depressed, I'm barely getting out of bed, and I have the great job, I am the CEO, I drive a Mercedes, but I'm fucking thinking of suicide all the time. Like, that's another cool thing about, like, the IOP with these guys is that piece of, "Oh, fuck, he's right over there and he's me." Like, he's just like me and he's just as successful and I'm not alone. Getting rid of that shame for just being is such a nice piece. They get such relief stepping into that. And
What
guys
would you?
hate group therapy too. It's like, it's my hardest selling point. You're like, "Wait, I have to
Yeah.
tell not just you my story, but like 6 other people?" And I'm like, "Yes,
Hmm.
you do."
What would you recommend to men watching this who maybe are not at the point of having major problems, but feel a piece of the puzzle is missing in their lives?
So I learned something early, and it was, the more experts, the more people I have in my life, the better my life's going to be. And I think for a lot of guys, we are success driven. We want the good stuff in life. And I'm always like, why are you making it harder? You wouldn't build a house by yourself, right? So why are you trying to do mental health, the brain, the thing that runs the whole show? Like, you don't have to try to figure out that by yourself. Like, there's literally experts. Even if you just want to come sit on my couch and bitch and scream and yell about your boss, your wife, your partner, your sports team, like, start having that conversation and utilizing tools that make your life easier. Like, I'm somebody, if I can pay to make my life easier, whether it's somebody doing my cleaning, helping with my dog, helping with my kids, like, I want to do that because it makes just everything better. Like, a lot of us have multiple resources that we're not utilizing that we could to improve everything. So take a chance, make a call. It's not as scary as you think. And especially in nowadays with the telehealth thing, you could literally do an appointment on your lunch break. I have many guys that do it, and you
Right.
get some external feedback. Like, what I say has no impact on my daily life. This is an outside perspective on your life that's going to help improve you, improve your relationship, improve probably your employment, make you more money. Like, therapy is such a great tool. I've been in it since I'm 18 years old and I still go every week. So, like, not only do I practice this stuff, guys, I bought in. I love it. I
Mhm.
like people understanding my thought process and helping me be a better human.
And if you look at like the NFL or even D1, even down to D2 sports, they all have team psychologists
Oh,
now.
yeah.
They all have team counselors. They all have a component of that, for guys that are crashing into each other. And it's even NASCAR. I mean, they have
Listen,
NASCAR provides mental
any
health for
successful
drivers.
person has a therapist. You're not gonna
Mhm.
talk to anybody that's not doing this. Like, they have consultants in every part of their life. They're definitely doing one for mental health. And I love the fact that it's getting more. Like, I do TikTok. I go on TikTok and I answer mental health questions every day. And I love the fact that we're spreading awareness and just letting people know, like, it's so normal to have some mental health symptoms in your life. You're not supposed to make it through without any. Like, we all experience anxiety. There's probably been some depression. Most people have some form of trauma, believe it or not. And it's nice when we get to talk about it and not act like, we're all okay.
And you mentioned earlier your own recovery. How has that influenced how you connect with people and maybe a little bit about it?
Oh yeah, greatly. I started using it 12. I didn't get officially sober till 31. I had a period. I told on myself in grad school, and they came to me and they're like, "You can't, do therapy if you're gonna be, doing these things." So I was able to give up alcohol and illicit drugs, but I still was prescribed narcotics from like 24 to 31. So I had this period of real deep denial where I was a practicing therapist on prescription drugs. I had a therapist, I had a psychiatrist, I'd go to AA meetings, but I was just denying that I could take any type of narcotic. So the whole thing came crashing down when I was 31. I got fired from a job. I lost my license to practice. I became homeless. I've been charged with 13 felonies, not
Wow.
convicted, charged. But yeah, I had to go through it. Like people had been telling me for years that I should have gotten fully sober and that these prescriptions were a problem, but I made six figures. I had a girlfriend, I had a car, I had a home. So I did what most people do, and I kept going until it fully came crashing down. And I was sitting in a jail cell that my dad worked in Myrtle Beach Police Department for 30 years. He was a PhD psychologist, but he also worked at that jail. That's the one I got arrested at finally. And it was just like, that moment, like it's like real bottom. So I got sent to Florida, lived in a halfway house, did the whole treatment world, and had to get my life back together. But it's what I needed. I don't think I would have got sober if I didn't have that pain. Um, but as a therapist, it's an ace up my sleeve in terms of building rapport. Like drug
Mhm.
addicts, alcoholics, they like other addicts. And the fact that I can get a good read on your brain pretty quickly, because I'm a
Mhm.
disease model person. I don't think it's just like a substance or a moral failure. I think our brains work differently
Mhm.
than a normie. It allows me that quick rapport building, and it's easier to connect some. Um, it can be a little easy, you know.
It would probably be hard to fool you, I would imagine.
Yeah, it can be, but
'Cause sometimes, like you said, people are in denial.
and part of
And
my process is like I'm pretty upfront and I will call it like it is and I will call you on your shit. But there are times where I have to let it, I want you to come to me with the truth. Which can be hard, especially with working with families, because a big part of my job, especially with the treatment, is it's not a lot of clients that are coming to me in the beginning. It's their families or loved ones. And I explain to them, for a lot of these people, like we're at letter A of the alphabet of addiction. Like if this is your first treatment, this is probably statistically not going to be the end of it, the way it works. And it's so hard to educate families about like, hey, this guy's going to come out of here and he's going to think he's on top of the world. That 30 days did everything, and he's going to promise you, and he's going to believe that he's never going to drink or use again. And he's not going to need an AA or an NA or CA or anything or IOP. He's going to be fine. And it's going to look great for a little while. But eventually, that head's going to come back and tell him X, Y, and Z. So that's always a hard piece. Especially when it comes to the boundary setting and holding consequences, because that's one of the best things that happened in my story was my family fully went to therapy, and the therapist told them, they were killing me by maintaining relationships with me and giving me help. And they stepped out for several years and didn't have anything to do with me until I was able to be a functioning human again. Like, and because you forget that. It's like a little piece of you is like, oh no, I can do whatever I want and my mom or dad will be there. It's like, no, dude, you have to be a good person to maintain relationships. Like, it should be mutual. It shouldn't be this take, take, take. So, that's a hard
yeah,
piece, is the education of family and boundaries and consequences.
a lot of bridges get burned
So
in
many. There's
so
still,
many.
I still have people that probably won't talk to me, but
Yeah. I've had clients who are high functioning people, but were addicts or alcoholics years prior, and they'll just say no one in my family will connect with me.
mhm,
And they're sitting in my office, we're doing maybe trauma work or whatever, and I'm thinking, this is such a nice person, such a high functioning person, and yet, and they own it. They go, I get it, it
yeah,
sucks, but I did a lot of things, stole from them, did a lot of things, and they're just not going to talk to me.
Listen, I would like eighth and ninth step, we go and we own what we did, but then, when we ask about how we can make it right, for some people, it's never contact me again, which I fully get, like your clients, like, not everybody's ready to do that, to
How do
forgive, to let go.
And you do groups. How do you feel about AA or, is it Narcotics Anonymous
Mhm.
too? The 12 steps, how do you feel
So
those
I'm
Go
a
ahead.
big fan. I wasn't always a big fan, of course, as someone in recovery. I fought it. Like, there's a reason that AA is called the last door on the block. It's usually because we don't really get there until we're ready. Like, I probably was exposed by the time I was 18, and I was in and out of the rooms, till I was 31, and then coming down here, I fully bought in, and it was a thing that got me, sober because I didn't really have anybody else. I was alone in a halfway house. I knew nobody in Florida, but AA was always a place I could go. It had people that cared, that gave a shit about me when I didn't, um and I think there's so many good aspects of the program, and it's so easy to be turned off because part of our brain as addicts wants to find a reason why this won't work, right? I want to, the
Mhm.
God piece, or there's judgy people, or this meeting, that meeting. So I tell people, like, you got to utilize it for what it is. Number one, you can't find a bigger, better, free support network than AA, CA, NA. There's literally anonymous for everything, especially with the sex and love world. Those
Mhm.
meetings have really grown. Sex and Love Anonymous, SA, and then SAA have grown. So even if, you're just looking for an excuse to interact, like I tell my clients sometimes, like, this is where you need to make friends. Like, you have an opportunity if you're in recovery to be in front of a group of people every day where you get to make those social connections easier because you have the title of addict or
Great
whatever.
point. Great point.
So, it's a
Mhm.
really free social aspect, and then I tell people also, like, you gotta treat it like it's the United States. So, the meeting on Friday at that church could be Alabama, and then the meeting at that church on Wednesday could be Maine. There's gonna be different people in
I
different
I was gonna say I
communities,
was gonna say Portland, but that's fine.
right? But if you're not willing to fully explore it, you're only going to see what you want. So for what it is and what it offers, I think it's an amazing concept. Like, I love the fact that it exists and I encourage people to utilize it. I understand why there's resistance to it. And we can usually, whenever there's resistance with a client, I love it. It's like, let's look under this and actually find out what's real and what you're really saying, you
Mhm.
know? But it's just such a great free resource, um, that I have to give it props, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying everybody has to get sober through AA. I think there's an elevation too. I think, like, I get the people that go for life, but, like, in my personal life, I've replaced a lot of AA with deeper and higher level therapy where, I'm doing more with more trained professionals. It's more beneficial for my hour than maybe going to a meeting, right? So, I'm
Yeah.
not saying there's one way to do it, but I definitely see the benefit.
And, I've seen people who are, I can think of a guy, he's a highly skilled surgeon, and he'll talk about drug addicted people and say they brought this on themselves. And what do you think is the biggest misconception about addiction?
So, I don't think it's a moral failure. From my experience, there's definitely something different about how my brain processes different feel good states. Like, the moment I tried cocaine, I was like, I want to buy all of this. Like, it's not like a normal human. Even when I had a drink, I was like, I would like to be drunk all the time. I don't understand why I can't drink in the afternoon, have a cigarette, and go about my life. That's not normal. So, um, I want people to know that I truly believe it's a disease, and it's not that we're flawed, it's that our brains are just programmed a little bit different, like people on the spectrum, you know what I mean? Some people are like, "That guy's just so rude." I'm like, "He's pretty autistic." So, it's not like we're purposely trying to be, it's just our brains function differently. And I think it's hard sometimes for people to look at something, especially with all the shame and the guilt around addiction, and not just go, yeah, it's just a bad person. He's dumb. He's making bad decisions versus no, like and addiction for me also is progressive. So it gets worse and worse and worse to the point where we're doing more extreme things the longer we let it be.
Yeah, for sure. And do you feel like most of it is killing pain or past pain or trauma, or do you think, like I had a client once that was he had a scholarship to place, some D1 sports, and then went to a party, tried some stuff, and said, I just did it for the heck of it.
Mhm.
However, later it came out that no, his childhood was really physically abusive, like beyond comprehension. But there's people that will say, I just tried it for the hell of it. And I suppose
Yeah.
there are. And then there's others that are suppressing pain. What do you think is the biggest? Or
I
is
think it's
there?
a combo. I think it's really hard to label and classify it as one or the other. Is it nurture? Is it nature? Like, I think all the pieces of my life led to me being the way I am. Um, So I don't think it's one or the other. I think there's something different with the way we think and process stuff, and I think if you have trauma on top of that, it's like throwing kerosene on a fire. So if I have the addict brain and I also have significant trauma, of course, this is gonna expedite me jumping into feeling good and numbing out and disconnecting. Like, it was hard. I grew up in, like, a gated community with a PhD therapist father. We had a lake house in Maine. Like, there should be no reason that I was arrested for 4 felonies when I was 18 for robbing a drug dealer. Like, that's red flag. I got all A's in high school, like, right? They don't line up, but my brain loved it. And it went against every logical piece, even though I didn't have significant trauma growing up. So, you see both sides, and I think we have to look at it case by case. I think there's so much knowledge that's still not out about the brain. It's like whenever people like claim they know what depression or anxiety is too, it's like we don't know that much. As much as we do, we really don't. Like, we know how to treat it pretty well, but where it's coming from, it's a lot of
Right.
questions.
Well, now there's so much research on even how mothers who are anxious transmit that cortisol in the womb. And, then that baby's born with extra amounts, high amounts of cortisol, and they go, why is Jimmy such a nervous kid? Well,
Did you know that, like, your egg was in your grandmother too?
right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Which means, like, if she was in a traumatic experience, she's feeling that energy, and that's, like, a whole 'nother world too of, like, energy and vibes and the stuff we carry, like, which I
I
believe
don't,
in too. I like it all. Like, I'm very eclectic
yeah.
when it comes to the approaches.
Somebody, and I heard this years ago, and I don't know if there's any validity to it, that we have more of the characteristics of our grandparents than our parents, and our kids will have more of our parents' characteristics,
I can
which
see it.
I can see that, like, with my oldest daughter. She has a lot of characteristics of my dad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how did that happen? Even things like, if we're late for something, my dad would say, "What's the big rush?" She'll say that.
Yeah.
And they weren't really at the same time where she would have been able to model that, you know.
Well, look,
And
I'm
she'll
a
say,
I'm a big reincarnation person. I don't think this is the only life. Like, I think our souls are continuously evolving. So I could definitely see how we pick up stuff from possible lots of experiences here, um,
yeah.
more than just the one.
As we kind of get to the end here, what do you find, as people complete your program? What's a common thing that stands out that maybe they give you in terms of feedback?
Um, Guys tell me a lot throughout the program that they didn't know this existed. That they've been through a lot of other treatment centers and they've never had this personalized of an approach. where you are having adjustments made to your treatment plan, you're having adjustments made to the overall care every day, where you are in contact with all three owners every day, where they're really felt like they're seen and heard, and it's truly, truly tailored to them. Like another piece is we're not a completely abstinent based program. I'm not pushing abstinence on anybody. So there are people that might come to the mental health side that are still going to have a cocktail, or might be prescribed a benzodiazepine because they do have anxiety. And we're not forcing that on anybody else. Or there might be somebody that has a primary meth addiction that has no desire to ever give up alcohol. And I'm not trying to force that on anyone. Like one of the things we took away from the treatment center aspect is like we don't do housing, we don't do transport. I never want to be the authority figure as a therapist. So like if I can remove some of that, like you have to do things this way, or I'm going to be your landlord over here, it makes it the dual relationship piece happens. So we
Mhm.
try to be the purely clinical side, and I think that's a lot different than a lot of other places because they're just forced to wear all these other hats, where the therapist is coming in and going, Johnny, you didn't clean your room. So therefore we're going to have to talk about discharge. And it's like, that's weird because that the relationship changes overnight. So that's the biggest, coolest piece is one that we are special and that people feel that when they see it. And then another is their willingness to talk about it. Like we get so many patient referrals from other patients that it's incredible. And there's been a really cool, like, I don't ever want somebody to relapse, but the willingness to come back and to communicate with us has been really cool too, where it's like, there's no other place we'd be. We want to be here. We want to be with you guys. Because I try my best too to keep in touch with everybody, regardless of when they leave, when they stay. Even if they're here for a week or whatever, like they're always invited to our alumni programs, which we try to do every month too. So uh, it's cool. It's just it feels special. Like if you sat in the room, if you saw the like even our chairs, our blankets, it's it's personalized.
Gotcha. That sounds like a absolutely wonderful program. And
Thanks.
where do you let people know where they can find you? And by the way, I will put all of Daniel's contact information underneath this podcast. So if you want to reach out to him, but
So I give
where
my
do you,
number to everybody. My cell is 404-668-8369. If you're struggling, you need help, you do not have to come see me. I work with a million different people. I'm very big at getting you to the right care. That's very important to me. My website is southfloridamentalhealth.com. You can find me there. I'm on all social media under Transcend Wellness IOP. We have TikTok, we have YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Um, I do a daily TikTok live. So if you ever want to come
Mhm.
in and ask general mental health questions, try to get some support, we have an awesome community. There's about 30,000 people. And they literally come on and just share their lives and get support. And we do that every day. We try to go live multiple times. So join us on
Cool.
TikTok, Transcend Wellness IOP.
And I also found you on LinkedIn.
No,
So I know you post things on LinkedIn as well.
we try to post every day. It's the new world of social media. I'm trying my best to stay afloat.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time today, Daniel. And I think you provide such a valuable service, so personalized that could really transform people's lives,
Thank you.
especially men who are kind of out there on an island.
Yeah,
So thank you for what you do.
thank you.
And would love to talk to you again down the road. I know there's more we could have talked about, but
I am available. I love to do this. I love this space too. It's fun.
great. I had a great time. Well, we will talk again, and thank you so much, Daniel.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of Meet Your Mental Helper. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, you can find them on our guest directory at meetyourmentalhelper.com. You can find their social media links to follow them and also ways to directly contact them. If you would like to be on the podcast, join our Meet Your Mental Helper network. And we have several memberships that support the work we do that allow unknown experts to be seen. Look forward to hearing from you soon and see you at our next podcast.